Welcome back. Well, it's a possible new tool for law enforcement to catch people texting or calling right before an accident. It's called the textalizer, and the governor is now calling for a study on its use. But civil libertarians say it would automatically mean turning over your phone. Every year on U.S. roadways, thousands of people are killed or injured from accidents caused by a driver being on a cell phone. Now New York State will study whether police should have this portable device called a textalizer. Within seconds, officers can plug it into your phone to see if you were texting or calling right before an accident.
To demand a cell phone at the time of an accident further victimizes people who are already traumatized.
Civil libertarian Susan Gotterer says automatically handing over your phone to police violates due process, especially since state lawmakers have approved a stiff penalty for anyone who refuses to hand over their phones.
If they say that they can't or won't, they can have their license suspended.
The company making the device says it will not access the content of texts or phone calls. As expected, defense attorneys are also opposed, saying police could gain access to incriminating photos, perhaps showing someone drinking before an accident.
Now they're scanning your phone where they really shouldn't have a right to. That's your personal property.
Claudette Banovich wonders if the technology would recognize drivers like herself who use hands-off voice-activated service.
If I'm in the middle of talking on the phone and I get into a car accident, how are they going to know if I was actually connected to Bluetooth or if I was actually physically holding my phone to my ear?
This mother of two young boys says drastic measures are needed because of the rise in distracted driving accidents.
You take your eyes off the road, you look at your phone, you could hit somebody with kids in the car.
If the state study okays the textalizer, state lawmakers would still have to fully approve its use. And joining us now is Susan Gotterer, who heads up the Nassau County chapter of the New York Civil Liberties Union. And welcome to the show, Ms. Gotterer. So what do you think of the governor's call to study this for its possible use, and will your organization be a part of that study?
I'm not sure if we'll be a part of the study, but I can tell you that the technology certainly needs to be studied, and we have not been exposed to it. We don't know what the textalizer can and cannot do, and it has not been independently tested.
Is it in use anywhere else by any other police force or agency?
I'm actually not sure of that answer.
Yeah, it seems to be coming to the fray here in New York.
Yeah,
coming to the fore.
And people will always try to find out what kind of technology can be used.
Well, let's talk about that, because the manufacturer says it's just a printout of activity, and I've seen it displayed in news stories, and no individual data is being stored or captured. So, you know, what's the big invasion of privacy? It's just essentially for police proof that you were on the phone.
Well, the answer to that is that we don't have an answer because it has not been independently tested, and we have not had access to the technology, and that our phones are like little mini computers that hold our most sensitive information, and we don't know if the technology will be able to scoop up other information off of that phone.
What would be the threat to that, potentially?
For having your information taken off your phone?
I mean, what would they obviously be able to look at everything on your phone, photos, who you were texting, emails?
Well, in this country, we have the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure, and privacy rights, and law enforcement is required to get a warrant precisely because we are a nation of laws.
Yeah, because right now, if you're in an accident, they can't just say to you, give me your phone.
Well, that's what this would be, in effect. And so what we would like to sort of put forward is that we are a nation of laws, and that in order to get your phone, they need a warrant. And there are also records that they can get to, which accomplishes finding out if the phone was in use. Absolutely.
They could file legal proceedings
we already
and
have
get access to what your records were and what time you were, and that could be used just as well.
That's correct.
Yeah, so in those cases, that already is done by law enforcement.
Correct.
Right. Now, you know, the manufacturer also says you're not really actually handing over your phone. You just have to bring it forward, and then they hand you a plug that attaches to the textalizer device, and you have to plug it in. So is that a good argument that you're not really handing over your phone?
No, it's still somebody having access to your phone, somebody else having access, and in this case, law enforcement, which is the power of the state. And law enforcement is actually, I think everybody knows this, connected to the federal government now through Homeland Security. So we have to think about this in a larger way, and how willing are we to be giving up our information, and to who?
Well, right now, can they seize your phone if, let's say, an eyewitness say they saw you were on the phone, texting, or talking just before an accident, or you can say the officer observed you. Sometimes officers actually observe accidents at busy intersections and can see somebody who's on the phone. In those circumstances, do they have the right to seize your phone right there on the spot because they saw you using it?
Well, I believe that there have been several court cases on this, and that a warrant is required to seize somebody's phone. And so the other part of this is that at this point where they might be able to seize your phone, what is the discretion? The bill that's being proposed gives discretion to law enforcement. And so they could decide to check somebody's phone in one car and not somebody's phone in the other. And as we all know, we all have implicit biases that we have to be careful about. And the other part of this is there's no way to challenge the result of the test.
How so?
So there's no
Explain
due
that.
process. If your phone is tested, right? Your phone is tested and it comes up with a certain result after a law enforcement officer decided which driver should be, whose phone should be taken. Maybe not both, maybe both, but then you can't even challenge, so there's no due process.
Well, of course, you know what the other side of this, it's a very emotional one, and a lot of people are going to support it because every day we see people get in accidents who are on their phone, either talking or texting, and they get killed or they hurt someone, and there's going to be victims' families and law enforcement who say, how can you be opposed to something? We have an epidemic here. People are getting killed every day because of this reckless behavior.
Well, there's several answers to that. One is that we are a nation of laws again, and the reason that we are is because we are human beings that tend to be emotional, and it doesn't mean that our emotions are always going to send us in the right direction as far as our civil liberties go. The other part of this is that we recommend using the energies towards developing other technologies, right, that might disable a phone when it's in a car, or I believe that the Department or the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration is working actually with cell phone manufacturers on these types of devices that would disable certain functions on a phone when people are in a car. So let's use our energies towards that instead of towards subverting our rights.
You know, a couple people said to me, hey, this is part of the brave new world we signed up for. Once you want all these fancy, convenient technologies, then they're going to be able to see what you're doing and where you are, and especially if you do something reckless like cause an accident.
Well, I think that we all have to decide exactly how much are we signed up for, and this is the reason that the New York Civil Liberties Union does what it does to make sure that the Constitution is safeguarded.
All right, Susan Goddard with the New York Civil Liberties Union with the Nassau County chapter. Thank you very much. We'll be watching, but not while driving. And we'll be right back.